Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is about Gadchiroli Maoist attack. As per the current data, 15 security personnel and a civilian were killed in the IED explosions that was triggered by the Naxals in Gadchiroli in the region of Maharashtra. The incident took place when a quick response team of the state police were headed to Datpur village where the Naxals had torched nearly 36 vehicles meant to assess the road construction work. So the previous day of this incident, there were 36 vehicles which were burned or torched by the Naxals, and all these vehicles were helping the civilian administration in construction work. These vehicles were torched or burnt, and with disturbance of peace, break of law and order in the village, the QRT team was on their way to provide reinforcement support to the police station in this particular village of Datpur. Even before we understand what this article is in great detail, let's look at some of the important statistics. According to South Asia Terrorism Portal, at least 107 persons have been killed in left-wing extremism-linked violence across the country in the year 2019. During the corresponding period of 2018, such fatalities stood at 96. Drawing a comparison between 2018 and 2019, we can come to a conclusion that during the same period up till May, there is a constant increase in the number of fatalities. What it means is more people have died due to the Naxalite attack. This involves the police, the civilians, as well as the Naxalites themselves. The incident comes weeks after the Maoists targeted a convoy in Chhattisgarh, killing BJP's Dantewada MLA Bhima Mandavi and 4 others traveling with him minutes before campaigning ended in Basta for the Lok Sabha polls. Now let's understand this article in great detail with respect to Gadchiroli. When we look at the geographical location of Gadchiroli, it is present on the southeastern part of Maharashtra. It is also located in such a strategic position for the Maoists that they also have Chhattisgarh on the eastern side. They also have Telangana on the southern side of this Gadchiroli district. So what it means is this Gadchiroli district has some dense forest. It has rivers which are penetrating in nature, and this region has a very sparse population, which means they have less population and the people in this region are very less compared to other districts of Maharashtra. This as a result has become a difficult terrain for all the security personnel to control. Why? One, because the population is less. One, because they are penetrating rivers, and also because it is thick with forest. What adds to further difficulty is the fact that Maoists are able to cross borders at will. When you look into the map, Maoists are currently in Gadchiroli. They would be able to infiltrate the region of Telangana. They would be able to go past to the Chhattisgarh, but lack of coordination between the police forces of 3 different states is the major advantage for the Maoists, and this is a hindrance factor for the state government. Why is it a hindrance factor? Because law and order is in the state list. It is not under uniform entity. So because the law and order is in the state list, each state entity have to coordinate, and when there is lack of coordination, what it means is Maoists will be able to move from one region to another region, and that's the prime reason as to why Gadchiroli becomes a strategic position for Maoists to strike at their will. When you look into the past few years, this has been the pattern. So the state has to come up with some of the robust and agile functions as well as structure. In order to overcome this issue, the Maharashtra government has come up with certain structure. What is the structure? The structure currently is, it needs certain intelligence units. It has also reached out to local Adivasis. With a structure laid in Maharashtra, with the coming up of these local Adivasis, with the coming up of these intelligence units, Maharashtra is able to curb the menace of Maoism. So this has contributed to reducing the Maoist attack in the region of Gadchiroli, and the state has even asserted control over this district, which has manifested in the huge success in April 2018, where the state went on an encounter against the Maoists, and the number of Maoists who were killed in this encounter amounted to 38 people. So what worked for Maharashtra here? The key thing that worked for Maharashtra is it set up an intelligence unit, and it also had certain local Adivasis who were supporting the Maharashtra government. But when we look into the current scenario, after the setback of April 2018, the Maoists would have felt the need to register their presence. They were waiting for their chance, and they wanted to showcase the Maharashtra government. They cannot be kept quiet, but they were waiting for their chance due to the logistic support that they required. With time, what they have delivered is a deadly attack on the state police force in Gadchiroli in the current scenario. So they chose the path of IED attack, which is a low-cost strike. All it requires is one single person looking at whether there is a state missionary that is heading in that particular road, and this is constantly being monitored by a Maoist, and then what we see is a major explosion resulting in death of about 15 security personnel along with a civilian. This ambush on the police seems to be a retaliation for killing of two senior women cadre of the Maoists by the anti-Naxal force when there was an encounter on April 27 this year. So 2018 there was a retaliation and 38 Maoists were neutralized. Then in 2019 two women cadres of the Maoists were again killed by anti-Naxal forces April 27, 2019. Because of this, they were waiting for an opportunity to show that Gadchiroli is the presence of Maoism, and that is why they have retaliated against the state government. Looking at all that is happening in Maharashtra with respect to this Naxal movement, some important questions must be asked to the state police. What are the questions? There were Maoists within this particular region. They had burnt the construction vehicles. There was intelligence that was given to the state police that there are Maoists already present in this particular region. Now the question that being asked to the state government is, why is that 15 people in private vehicles were asked to go together to this particular region? So the point of question is, when you had presence of Maoists already in that region, when you had intelligence reports of Maoists in that region, why did you send all these security personnel together in the private vehicles is the first question that needs to be asked to the state police. The second question is, the 15 personnel who were killed were traveling together in a private vehicle. This is a way that is strongly obstructed in the standard operating procedure. What is the standard operating procedure? It is a way how the security personnel will have to conduct themselves when there is Naxal operation that is being taken place. Ideally, what should have either happened is, there should have been an area domination unit to explore the road ahead within this particular region, which is the usual practice. So what is this area domination? Area domination basically means you have limited number of security people. So it means you have 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 number of people, which involves paramilitary forces or even the police forces. They will deprive all the grounds to the anti-state elements by instilling a sense of fear and also checking whether this particular region has any types of IED. Ideally, what should have happened? It has to be an area domination unit which should have explored this particular area, and only after this unit has ensured that there is no breach of security would then the security personnel from other teams come up to this particular area. The quick response team did not also wait for the anti-landmine vehicles. These anti-landmine vehicles will check whether there is any issues of IED that is prevalent in that region. This will further give certification, and that is when there can be a private travel of all the security personnel. Again, the QRT or the quick response team did not wait for these anti-landmine vehicles, and that is another question that is being asked to the state personnel. What could have been done by the security forces in order to prevent this? When you look into the standard operating procedure, forces are usually asked or encouraged to travel on foot. Why is that they are asked to travel on foot? As they are walking through this particular area or the road, they sanitize this particular region and see if there is prevalence of IED or any other equipment or missions that is there within this region. Now let's say they cannot travel by foot because there is an urgency or an emergency. So this has to be done on a faster basis. So there is another protocol that is devised in the standard operating procedure. So this procedure is use of motor vehicles which is ridden by two people. So what the standard operating procedure with respect to motorcycle says is that you have the security personnel driving the bikes. This will be on both the sides of the roads. One on the left side, the other on the right extreme. So what it means is you would be able to see if there is any IED wire along this particular path. In case you are able to see it, make sure you say the same thing to the security personnel who are following you. In case the security personnel are not able to see this particular wire because of its delicate nature, then the number of casualties will also reduce, as the people who are coming behind will become very cautious of what is coming ahead. The standard operating procedure further asks the security personnel to use the drones as well. So by using the drones, they would be able to see the activity within this particular area. In case they sense that there is something fishy or something which is against normalcy, they would be able to stop the continuity of the journey or initiate actions against this particular movement. So what we need to understand is that the state security personnel in this particular case has failed to follow the norms that have been established by the standard operating procedure. In line with this, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has condemned the attack and has said that perpetrators will not be spared. He strongly condemns the despicable attack on our security personnel in Gadchiroli, Maharashtra, and he says he salutes all the brave personnel. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten, and he says his thoughts and solidarity are with the bereaved families. The perpetrators of such violence will not be spared. This article says UN Security Council designates Masood Azhar as global terrorist. What is the context? In a major diplomatic victory for India, Jaish-e-Mohammad founder Masood Azhar was finally declared as a global terrorist by the United Nations Security Council after China lifted its technical hold. When we look into the background, the P3 countries consisting of the United States of America, the United Kingdom and France had co-sponsored a listing request at the committee to declare Masood Azhar as a terrorist after the Pulwama attack that killed 40 security personnel. After this process was initiated by these three P3 countries, the major spoilsport was by China. In its support to Pakistan, it has repeatedly blocked the move of designating him as terrorist, citing lack of substantial evidence. There were cruel intentions of dominance, a fight for hegemony against the West for its superiority, failing to sympathize with the loss of security personnel in India to manifest its own strategic objectives. Now, after considerable period of time, with pressure from multiple forces, China has removed this technical hold. So what is that we have to understand? After careful study of all these revised materials and taking into consideration the opinions of all relevant parties concerned, China has said that it has no objection to this listing process. Now the question is, what were the reasons for designating Azhar as a terrorist as per the listing included, and why is that China has supported this move? The reasons as cited are that Jaish-e-Mohammad, which is headed by Masood Azhar, is closely associated with Al-Qaeda, and this Al-Qaeda is a global terrorist organization. What this Jaish-e-Mohammad is currently doing is, it is recruiting people, financing, planning, facilitating, preparing or even perpetrating acts of violence and supporting the activities of Al-Qaeda indirectly, or even selling and transferring arms and ammunition to Al-Qaeda. So the major reason is Al-Qaeda as an organization is a terrorist banned organization across the world. This Jaish-e-Mohammad is indirectly supporting them and further perpetrating the act of violence and terrorism across the world. This is the major reason. The listing has further gone on to point that Jaish-e-Mohammad has played a key role in recruiting fighters in Afghanistan and destabilizing the region of Afghanistan, whereby breaking all the peace and tranquility that is present in Afghanistan. What could be the implications now that Masood Azhar is designated as a global terrorist? This global terrorist tag will subject Azhar to three important issues. One is his assets will be immediately freezed and he'll have a travel ban across the world, and then arms embargo will be immediately raised on Azhar and his association. What is assets freeze here? Masood Azhar is present in Pakistan. So Pakistan will immediately have to freeze his assets. What do we mean by it? All the money that he is deriving from a particular product, how is this money being transferred from and to? All this will be immediately blocked, so there is suffocation when it comes to his economical activity. With Azhar's designation as a global terrorist, Pakistan should act against him as well as the individuals and entities that are associated with him. So all those people who are associated with him will not be able to travel elsewhere. They'll not be able to move in or move out of this particular region. Hence, there is travel ban that is imposed on them. And in case there is any derelictions, a violation, then Pakistan will have to answer the UNSC. Apart from this, there is arms embargo issue. This terrorist organization is creating ruckus and also disturbing peace in multiple countries, all due to presence of arms and ammunition. So all those countries or organization or entities supporting this organization, supporting arms and ammunition, will also be blacklisted in case they are supporting this organization and providing them certain grenades, pistols, rifles or whatever ammunition that is required to break the tranquility in the region. Ultimately, this will also mean the immobilization of Azhar and shutdown of his organization and its institutions such as terror camps and madrasas. This is what will happen in the papers. But is it the reality? No. The reality is something different. There are large number of people in Pakistan. There is Dawood Ibrahim. There is Afi Sayed. They are walking in Pakistan free and fair. And is Pakistan doing anything? No. They are giving speeches after speeches. And all that Pakistan has doing is sheltering them. So until and unless Pakistan decides to make sure that this has to be implemented, this will only be on papers and will not be a fruitful exercise. We will be continuing this particular discussion in the future, but as of now, this is all we have to understand. This article here is speaking about Cyclone Fani. The Cyclone Fani was named by Bangladesh. Kindly remember, this can be a prospective question in your prelims examination. The word Fani here basically means it's snake. Why are we discussing this article? That is because Odisha will be bracing itself for this particular Cyclone Fani, which is called as extremely severe cyclonic storm, which is likely to make a landfall near Puri. What this landfall is, what is the criteria, how this has been conducted has all been explained in our earlier classes, but currently what we will be looking at is some other facts which can also be important from your preliminary as well as the main examination. When we look into this particular cyclone, this is generating storms with the wind speeds of about 200 km per hour. Now, tropical cyclone in the Bay of Bengal are graded according to maximum wind speeds at their center. So how does it categorize or how does it stratify? According to it, the lower end are called as depressions when the generated wind speeds are about 30 to 60 km per hour. Followed by cyclonic storms which has a speed of about 61 to 88 km per hour. Severe cyclonic storms 89 to 117 km per hour. Very severe cyclonic storms if it has 118 to 166 km per hour. It is called as extremely severe cyclonic storms if it has wind speeds of about 167 to 221 km per hour, which is what we are seeing in this case. Then it is also called as super cyclones in case the maximum wind speeds at their center is about 222 km or higher. Further, we also have to understand there are two types of cyclones depending on the period of occurrence as well as the origin. The period of occurrence usually here is April to May or in the month of October to December. And the place of origination is whether it is happening in Bay of Bengal or it is happening from elsewhere. Why are we discussing this? That is because Cyclone Fani has occurred during the period of April and May, and this has happened or originated in the region of Bay of Bengal. So because it is originated in the Bay of Bengal, it is also called as in situ cyclone. And in case there are cyclones which happen during the month of October to December, they are usually the remnants of those cyclonic systems that emerge in the Pacific Ocean. They manage to come to the Bay of Bengal considerably weakened because they'll have to travel all the way from Pacific Ocean to the Bay of Bengal. So they'll be considerably weakened, and they also have to cross the South Asian landmass near the South China Sea. So what is so special about this Fani cyclone? The in situ cyclonic systems in the Bay of Bengal, as we just discussed, usually happens at the 10-degree latitude. So when we speak of 10-degree latitude with reference to India, this can also originate either in Chennai or it can start off in Thiruvananthapuram. What is so special about Fani is this has not happened at 10-degree latitude, but instead it has happened at 2-degree latitude, which is almost near to the equator. Fani originated quite close to the equator around latitude 2 degree, well below the Sri Lankan landmass. So this means that it has travelled or traversed a very long way on the sea, thus gaining the strength that is unusual for all those cyclones originating in the Bay of Bengal in this particular season during April and May. During April and May, it usually happens that it originates and makes a landfall within considerable period. With respect to Fani, the site of origination is near the equator, and it has taken a long way for it to come, and as a result it has gained momentum, and when this momentum hits a particular landfall or an area, there will be a major devastation or loss of life and infrastructure. This article here says curbs on civilian traffic between Srinagar and Baramulla lifted. What this article is all about, what is its background, has all been explained under the topic The Road to Kashmir on 16th of April 2019. So kindly look into it for the detailed explanation. However, what this article currently says is that the restrictions that were imposed for the civilian population for the travel between Srinagar and Baramulla is currently taken off. It is removed, and now the civilian population will be able to travel easily on the national highway connecting Srinagar and Baramulla. What it is, what were the issues with it, what were the various constraints have all been explained in this article. So kindly look into it. This article is very important from your preliminary examination. This speaks about Varuna, the naval exercise between India and France. Kindly remember, the Varuna is an Indo-French joint naval exercise. The bilateral naval exercise was initiated in the year 1983. It was codenamed as Varuna in the year 2001, which is a very vital part for Indo-French strategic partnership. The exercise aims at developing interoperability between two navies and mutual cooperation. So this exercise further underscores the shared interest and commitment of both the nations in promoting maritime security. This article here is speaking about the Madras High Court, its judgment about the role of LG in the Puducherry administration. There was a constant tussle or a fight over the power in the Union Territory of Puducherry between the Lieutenant Governor and the elected Chief Minister. Who should be dispersing the powers? Is the LG more powerful than the Chief Minister? Should secretaries listen to the Lieutenant Governor or the Chief Minister? These questions, and a couple of them, were posed before the Madras High Court, and the Madras High Court was looking into all these issues. So what is the present context? The Madras High Court has ruled that Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry could not interfere with the day-to-day administration of the Union Territory when an elected government is already in picture. The government has said that continuous interference from the Lieutenant Governor is amounting to a parallel government which is not espoused in the Constitution. Justice R. Mahadevan, who voiced his opinion on this judgment, said the central government as well as the administrator should be true to the concept of democratic principles. Otherwise, this constitutional scheme, the constitutional mechanism that we are espousing in this particular country, will be violated, as we have the principles of democracy and republic which will be defeated. The judge also made it clear that the government secretaries who are currently listening to the Lieutenant Governor are bound to the instructions from the ministers as well as the Council of Ministers, which is headed by the Chief Minister. He also disapproved of this particular fact that government officials are being part of the social media group in order to run the administration that is headed by the Lieutenant Governor. He has said that you, the secretaries working for the government, will henceforth have to listen to the elected Chief Minister as well as the Council of Ministers and not to the Lieutenant Governor who is appointed by the central government. So what did this particular judgment look into? This judgment identified key differences between Delhi as well as Puducherry. So what this particular judgment has gone about saying is the Puducherry legislature is the creation of a parliamentary law. This is based on an enabling provision in Article 239A of the Constitution. So what does Article 239A says? It says creation of local legislature or Council of Ministers or both for certain union territories. Parliament may by law create for the Union Territory of Puducherry. Let's try and understand what this judgment has spoken about. There is a particular article called as Article 102. So this Article 102 of the Constitution speaks about the disqualification. One of the clauses within this article speaks about office of profit. But has the Constitution mentioned this particular explanation of office of profit? Not. This has been left to various interpretations of the Supreme Court as well as various laws that the Parliament has come up with. Ideally, the Constitution under Article 12 has just said that office of profit is present, but the meaning of Article 102 is not present, but this is left to a law that is passed by the Parliament or the judicial inferences over a period of time. So what this judgment under Article 239A says is this particular Puducherry administration has no explicit mention with respect to laws that is prevalent in the Constitution. It has mentioned about Puducherry, but there are no explicit laws for the Puducherry. So what it means is this was created by an act of the Parliament in order to make sure that there is legislature for the Puducherry. Now let's look into another article what it speaks about. It speaks about the NCT legislature, that is National Capital Region, that was created by the Constitution itself under Article 239AA. As from the date of commencement of the Constitution, 69th Amendment Act 1991, the Union Territory of Delhi shall be called the National Capital Territory of Delhi, hereafter in this part referred to as National Capital Territory, and the administrator thereof appointed under the Article 239 shall be designated as Lieutenant Governor. So what it means is when it comes to the Puducherry, there is a parliamentary law that is passed, but when it comes to Delhi, there is a constitutional mandate. So there is a provision under 69th Constitutional Amendment Act which has clearly laid the rules for Delhi, but that is not the same for Puducherry. So for Puducherry, it's a parliamentary law, which means it's an ordinary law passed by the Parliament, but when it comes to Delhi, it's a constitutional mandate. So there is a mention of Delhi under 69th Constitutional Amendment Act, but there is nothing like that with respect to Puducherry is what the first argument is. Next, Justice Mahadevan also said that Article 239A imposes certain restrictions on the legislature of Delhi, but no such registration has been imposed explicitly in the case of Puducherry under Article 239A. So what are the restrictions that are imposed on Delhi? So for Delhi, when it comes to subject matters like public order, police or land, this has been subject to the central government. So what will be the decisions are with respect to the central government. Can the state government take any action with respect to these subjects? No. But when it comes to the Puducherry, there is no explicit mention of these subjects. So Puducherry will have a more broader vacuum. It will be able to take more decisions is what this judgment says. And this judgment further looks into the business rules as well as other statutory provisions on Puducherry and has given great greater credence to the concept of representative government. Further, this particular judgment has also looked into Government of Union Territories Act of 1963, Section 44, which states that there shall be a council of ministers in each union territory to aid and advise the administrator, who shall act in his or her discretion only in so far as special responsibilities were concerned. Now the question that the Madras High Court says is, the Act does not specify what the special responsibilities are. When the Act does not specify or declare what the special responsibilities is, it ultimately means that the elected power, the democratical power, the republic power, and that is the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers will have to work about it, and it is they who have to conduct the daily activities. And in case of tussle that has been happening as declared by the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court with respect to Delhi, then the Lieutenant Governor will have to go back to the President, and whatever President says will be the ultimate decision. Even here, not every decision can be given to the President, but only in case of a constitutional declaration or a constitutional tussle, that is when the Lieutenant Governor will be able to send a particular bill or that particular act to the President, and not every bill or act will be given to the President, is what this judgment all about. This article here is speaking about India and Canada relationship. India has often accused Canada of sheltering Sikh separatists. Due to this particular call, India-Canada ties have deteriorated, weakened, depreciated in the recent couple of years. When we look into the past, Sikhs in Canada form a considerable voting bloc for Justin Trudeau. So much so that he even attended a Khalsa Day parade which are organized by radical individuals in Gurudwara in Toronto. Members of Mr. Trudeau's cabinet also have Defence Minister like Harijit Sajjan, who have been accused of having links with Sikh separatists. So with Mr. Trudeau attending all these functions and programs, and also having people in his cabinet who are supporting the cause of Khalistan, Justin Trudeau's administration has been very soft on individuals as well as those organizations that support the demand for Khalistan, which is a separate country for the Sikhs. Another act of Mr. Trudeau that also drew the irritation and ire of the Indian government was with respect to a recent report that was published by Canada. Canada recently published a terror threat report. In this particular report, the words of Khalistani movement was not mentioned in spite of certain pressure that was forced on Canada. So with all these examples in the backdrop, India has consistently told Canada that this should be avoided. It has also cited a clear rules have to be drawn to ensure that the Sikh diaspora do not galvanize the movement and become a threat to India. Next, we have to also consider what are the views of the Sikh diaspora. The Indian media, the government, as well as even politicians in Punjab also need to realize that the Sikhs that are based in Canada, UK and US may have different political views. They are not part of the Indian system, but they are living elsewhere. So their idea, their political notions, their political will and their freedom of expression is something different. So as a result, the Canadian government has also put it in terms of freedom of expression. Similarly, non-violent support for a cause cannot also be labeled as a militant activity. When there is a violation of certain human rights, when there are people who are killed in the name of religion, if this diaspora is voicing their opinion on the global forum, they have every right to do so. What this article says is that the Sikh diaspora have their own political views, and in case they are exposing certain facts with respect to the human rights violation, they are free to do it any which ways. So this article further says that Canadian relationship should be seen in compartments. We should not see India and Canada relationship only from the eyes of the Khalistan movement, but it should be seen in compartments, segments and segregation. Security as an issue should be seen separately. Education as an issue should be seen separately. Then there is strategic viewpoint. Then there is economics and trade. All this will have to be seen in compartments, instead of seeing India and Canada relationship only on the basis of security and Khalistan. So when we look into certain facts, it has been very important to bear in mind. For the year 2017, Indian students received well over 25% of the available student permits. In 2017, well over 40% of 86,022 people who received invitations from permanent residency were Indians. During 2018, this also rose by a staggering 13% to about 41,000. So these statistics says us that India and Canada relationship has been blossoming at other levels in terms of education, in terms of permanent residency, but only the security issue is a major threat. So what should India do? In case India senses that there is evidence of support of any violent activity, New Delhi and Canada must initiate work to tackle this problem. So everything and anything should not be viewed from Khalistan movement, but in case India senses that there is a grave threat to its security and sovereignty, such material, such evidence, such corroborative views should be given to the Canadian government, and it should be taking action immediately. By focusing only on the Khalistan issue, the New Delhi will also be alienating the Sikh diaspora. And what India can also initiate is, it can reach out to all the Sikh diaspora when the Sikhs and all other followers of Guru Nanak Ji will be commemorating the 550th birth anniversary. So what this means is that India and Canada relationship is not only about Khalistan, it means there is greater number of other opportunities that we need to open up. Now let's look into some of the prelims practice questions. Consider the following with respect to temperature of ocean water. The winds from the land towards ocean drive warm surface water away from the coast. It will result in upwelling of cold water from below. The onshore winds pile up warm water near coast and raises the temperature. Which of the above statements are correct? All the three statements are correct. Why are we discussing this? That is because we just discussed about Cyclone Fani. Let's look into the next question. With reference to intertropical convergence zone, which of the statements are incorrect? It is a low pressure zone located in equator where trade winds converge. Yes. In July, the ITCZ is located around 20 to 25 degree north. Yes. Here the air tends to descend. This is wrong because it ascends. So the answer for this is 3 only. Let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following about Hindon River. It is a tributary of Yamuna. It originates in Uttar Pradesh. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer for this is 1 only, because this does not originate in Uttar Pradesh. This originates in the region of Uttarakhand. Hindon River is a tributary of Yamuna River. It is joined by its two tributaries Kali and Krishni. So kindly look into the map as well as the explanation. Let's look into the practice question. India is regarded as a country with demographic dividend. This is due to its high population in the age group of 15 to 64. This is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.